looking massive over her.
It's a good off season so far.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. It looks like it all went to your arms.
That's what everybody keeps saying. I think that's just a perk of being vertically challenged, but there's not too many of them. Well, I'll take what I can get. I'm not going to be a basketball player, so.
I was just having this conversation at the barber. I was like, man, it all comes down to genetics at the end of the day. Like, you don't see anybody 5'4" playing in the NBA. And he was like, oh.
Well, we all, you're going to have a natural inclination to things that you're good at. You know what I mean? And I think that people who are taller, they obviously have that opportunity in basketball. It's a natural progression. You know what I mean? But with bodybuilding, I think the thing is there's more nuance to just like being a small person wanting to be large. Like everybody has their reasons for wanting to get big. That's something that like everybody can identify with to some degree. Or wanting to be better physically, whether it's bigger or leaner, maybe not everybody, but I think that everybody can identify with like the concept of bodybuilding to some degree.
Yeah, 100%. I actually started for the opposite reason. I was a fat kid. And it's so funny because now I'm like the conditioning guy.
Yeah.
But I started off as the fat kid, and I got cut the last day of preseason in high school, and so then that started me on the journey of like, well, if I can't be on the football team, then I'm gonna be stronger than everybody else. And then my dad's friends are New York State troopers, and they all took me under their wing, and then it went from there.
That kind of contributes to the idea that nobody has any idea of what kind of genetics they have until they tap into those genetics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like decently strong, but not that strong. But I was strong for my age. I remember like being really good at the bench press before I ruptured my pec on the left side in 2015.
Yeah, dude, the bench press is something that I tend to stay away from.
Yeah, well, when you get more intelligent, you tend to not do the bench press.
My thing is, it's not like I'm not even going to argue whether like muscle. You can certainly build quite a bit of muscle doing bench press as you can so many other exercises. But every time I see somebody up on stage and their front relax and they're missing a pec, and I ask them what they were doing, it's the same answer every time. So I just don't. I think that you can build a chest doing all sorts of exercises. Barbell bench is what works for you. Go for it. But I just don't feel like the juice is worth the squeeze there. I also feel it like everywhere else, like my triceps and my lats and my front delt.
Well, it also becomes like a game of like how much weight can I push, and then you're using leverages, and you're arching your back, and you're using your lats, and it's like you're rowing the bar, and it's like how much of this is actually building a chest versus just becoming a full body exercise.
Right, which is a fair argument in support of the barbell bench because it might not be mainly the issue at the barbell bench, but how people approach the barbell bench. Like if we approached it the way that we approached a concentration curl, it would probably be a bit more sensible. But it just seems a little bit tougher to get your ego out of it. And everybody takes chest exercises to failure on like most sets. You know what I mean? Not too many take like hack squats to failure, but most people are going to take their chest presses to failure.
See, I'll take the chest. Like the chest, I'll actually hold back a little bit on because I had that pec rupture. But hack squats, I'm like going all in. Like I can go full bore.
If you have enough room to sit on the bottom, then you're all good.
Yeah, it's like no big deal. Like, what's the worst that'll happen? I have to crawl out of this. No problem.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as the Panada pendulum can get. I'm sorry, the Panada pendulum's fine. The Arsenal one can get a little bit hairy to get stuck in. But I don't use that anyways. That's like a fucking knee shredder right there. That's
what's funny? You're the second guy I know, the second pro I know who feels that way. Chris Tuttle feels the same way about the pendulum squat.
Well, then I'm in good company because Chris Tuttle is much smarter than I am. But
yeah,
so the Panada swing squat is amazing. It gets very light at the bottom. There's a lot of manipulation there at the strength curve, which is technically good for the quad as it gets harder as you go up. The max pump is like a little bit more free weight style. There's less manipulation to the strength curve than on the Panada. I like it a little bit more. and then the arsenal is like so loaded on the bottom, like it just crushes you at like the most knee flexion. So it's not my favorite exercise for most people. And then the other thing too is it's kind of odd. Like I understand that there's like a little bit of in that position where you're tucked, and then your hips come back and your legs straighten out. Like your hips come back before you stand up. That's the point of it. But it's like too much so on that one. It makes me feel like you're almost, instead of standing up off the ground, it makes me feel like you're like sliding your feet, like using your patella tendon to stand up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a quad. It's like a shitty quad extension, which that's the argument, right? But we can achieve the same thing on a hack squat or max pump or any machine that's not just like wrecking your patella tendon. I don't know. I just, everybody that I know that uses that, they use it for about 4 to 6 weeks before stuff starts hurting, and then they have to cycle something else out. And then it becomes an exercise that people like throw in every now and then as like a feeler or finisher, which in my opinion is like worthless to do.
I love it after leg press.
Okay.
So when I get on the Arsenal pendulum squat, excuse me, I would have first done 2 or 3 working sets on the leg press where I'm like
Right.
fucking decimated.
Mm.
And then I'll get on there with a good amount of weight and I'll be like, okay, perfect 12.
There you go.
Perfect 12.
Do you do one or do you do 2 working sets there?
Usually 2. Yeah, usually 1 is effective. And then
Yeah.
I'm feeling it and I'm like, oh, we'll go for 1 more.
Yeah, there you go.
You
Yeah, I do
know.
one. I do. I finish my one of my leg days with 1 set on the max pump, and I
Yeah,
just
I watch
really,
you. You
really
actually got
let
me into that
myself.
machine.
Yeah, dude, you did. It's a good machine, man. It's fucking. We have some really good stuff at house, man. Like we're pretty blessed at that gym. Extremely blessed. Like we have some good stuff.
You know where I got a week pass to like change up the pace a little bit, and they have that old Icarian hack squat
Lift.
is the Georgetown gym, Georgetown Fitness.
Oh, I've never heard of
Dude,
this.
they got some good shit there. I was like,
Really?
I'll just get a week pass, just give it a fucking whirl, like change of scenery, no big deal. And dude, like they have some good shit.
I train at an old school gym in San Marcos that has that like OG Icarian hack squat. That's fucking dope.
It's
Not
like
the
the
one that's
Yates
like in
one
a
where
bunch
it's
of
just like
gold.
it's just the one rail.
Yeah, yeah, the old school one, not the one that's like in golds and stuff. That's like
No, then you can throw
horizontal.
6 plates on and you're like, oh, fucking
Yeah,
strong.
yeah. I can't even hit depth on that one, but the old school one, man, it is smooth. It's a heavy piece, and it's a solid piece of equipment. I like
Yeah.
that. I like. Yeah, I'll have to check that gym out. I'm excited to check out the new House of Gains in Cedar
Yeah,
Park.
that looks fucking sick.
That's Cedar Park, right?
I thought it was Pflugerville.
Maybe.
I don't know. They're all the same at this point.
Yeah, it's just like
So
little Austin towns.
let's get on our subject today, which is the
Do it.
peptide craze.
Yeah. A lot of silliness, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of hype. So we can kind of get down to kind of separating the hype from the madness. So, do you have experience with any that you want to go over? Or do you just want me to kind of jump into?
I will. I have experience with just about all of them.
Oh
Um,
shit!
I've tried them all, and I've kind of made my distinction. And it's funny. I had my buddy, another pro who came to town, and I was having this discussion with him. And I was like, it just seems like everybody's trying to get around the actual benefits is just what you get from doing cardio, except for like the GLP-1s, which is just quieting the food noise and
Are you
increasing
talking
in.
about like mitochondria support?
Yeah,
Right.
and inevitably it's like we have SLU and we have retatrutide and like some of these things like the exercise mimetics I'm not as big of a fan on because I look at kind of things in a long-term sense. And if something
Right.
is, stressing the body out and like necessarily like kind of putting cardiac muscle under duress without like the NEAT portion, like the exercise portion, like clenbuterol increases NEAT, increases actual movement. And when you do cardio, it's strengthening, they've done studies where it strengthens the heart if you're doing like a low dose clen with
Right. So
cardiovascular activity.
like what we're getting at here is kind of like at some point you got to pay the piper, so there's no free ride in what we're doing. And And I could be talking out of my ass here, but generally speaking, when we're increasing fat oxidation and we're increasing output, we're increasing what the mitochondria is, their efficiency. I feel like that could open us up for free radical damage and oxidative stress, which I think a lot of people are misunderstanding. A lot of the mitochondrial support. You have supplements that support mitochondria, and then you have supplements that are increasing mitochondria efficiency. So a lot of times people think, okay, I'm going to crank out all this fat loss and get my mitochondria in a good spot. They might be backwards on that.
I agree. So inevitably, like you want your mitochondria to be efficient, so you're utilizing energy to the highest extent. However, if you're insulin sensitive and you're already doing cardio and you're cardiovascularly fit and you're training at a high capacity, your mitochondria is already functioning at a high capacity, right? Like if your fasted blood glucose is around, 70, 80, you're already functioning at a high capacity.
What I
So, and
ask people is like, how fucking efficient are we trying to get our mitochondria, bro? You know what I mean? Like, do we need 6 mitochondria drugs?
So I had this. I actually inquired with Broderick Chavez about this, and he made the funniest distinction. And I love how blunt he is. He's pretty much like, once you're healthy, you can't be fucking healthier.
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard this. Yeah, you don't get extra health.
yeah, it's like once you're insulin sensitive, it's like you're there. Like getting extra is just a detriment. Like, what are you gonna
Right.
do? And it's just like what I dealt with was like constantly going hypoglycemic with retatrutide. I was constantly going hypoglycemic. I was going hypoglycemic just walking with my wife downtown Austin. I was going hypoglycemic, mid cardio in the gym. I was going hypoglycemic. I had my buddy visited town. We trained. I didn't do cardio. I had a Thai food meal, which is just chicken, rice, and vegetables. I dropped him off at the hotel, and I could feel it. And I took my blood glucose in the car, and he's like, "Dude," he's like, "No way, we just ate." And I like did my blood glucose. It was like 50,
Yeah, I believe it.
and it was like managing that kind of thing became more of a job than just dealing with the hunger and just dieting.
Right. So I think that that's where we have to separate things. Is like from where there's a useful tool to where we might actually be making our job harder. And then there's also the, are we pissing in the ocean here? Like, are we spending $400 or $500 a month taking a lot of things that we can't even necessarily track, right? Like muscle can only be built so fast, fat can only be lost so fast, right? So at what point are you going to be able to make an argument that this is definitely helping you? And I understand the argument of, well, if it could give you 1%, it could give you, but a lot of things could give you 1% that are human approved and don't come with potential risks. And so I think there's all of those things to
Well,
weigh in. Like
here's
I
the
get the
thing is like at the end of the day, like if it's not helping you train harder, then it's not inevitably helping you be a better athlete. So like doing cardiovascular activity helps you train harder because
right,
you're just fitter. And then also, like when you dial in your diet, why do you dial in your diet? Because then you're able to time nutrients appropriately and train harder, and you're more proficient at building muscle because you have the necessary nutrients there. And
right.
then you add on top of that, like, okay, everything's going to revolve around this training efficacy. If it's not improving my training efficacy, then it's not inherently helping me body build per se. Because
Well, here's I agree. I agree. Here's an argument for SLU. Like if you have somebody who's efficiently burning fat easier, their stress is in a better place, their diet is in a better place. Then in turn, that perpetuating cycle that can go one way or another in the contest prep. We're all aware that momentum has a massive role in there. Then and let's say somebody doesn't do very well with clenbuterol, their anxiety gets up, their stress
yeah,
gets up. Then in turn, there are times that we could justify use for a lot of these products. I think that the main point that I think is necessary is the kitchen sink approach, with this idea that we're going to avoid being hungry and avoid stress and avoid difficulty on a prep. Because what I've noticed is, and this is a wary thought, you know what I mean? I'm not saying this is how everybody's mind works, but from the mind of a former drug addict, I think that we should be wary of the idea of, oh, I need this, I need to work harder, there's a drug for that, I need to focus, there's a drug for that, I need this, there's a drug for that. Because there's so many things about bodybuilding and just manipulating your own life that is just managing your mindset and being able to manage those stressors. And not to say that there's not tools that aren't efficient, But I think that mindset of constantly looking for a drug to be taking for every single purpose, I think that could be detrimental. It could lead you into making some poor choices.
I agree. It comes down to a needs analysis, and so my thing with like the GLP-1s and retatrutide, like a triple agonist, would be very effective in a rebound, or very effective in an off season. Let's say like you're utilizing growth hormone and your blood glucose goes high. This is a good. This is a good tool to use to kind of lower that blood glucose, make you more insulin sensitive, because you're not going to be overdoing the cardio at that point. You're really trying to shuttle nutrients for growth, but then you're also blunting that food noise so that like, a lot of guys overeat in the off season. And then you're actually blunting that effect of like, hey, you're going to eat 4 to 5,000 calories and none other. Because how many times do you work with somebody that they go overboard in the off season and they put on 40, 50 pounds and you're like, dude, how are we going to prep on this?
Well,
You know what I'm
how many
saying?
times does that? How many times does that happen in the reverse? I think that as coaches, one thing that we have to make sure that we do is communicate with athletes what the expectation is, even if we might assume that it's obvious. I was recently talking to an athlete who was saying, I want to have a pro level off season. They had a bit of a rough reverse phase, and I was like, well, we're off to a rocky start, my man. And he was like, well, I'm going to really lock it in the growth phase. And I was like, we're in it. We're in it. This is we
Yeah,
can
that
just
was it. You missed it.
yeah, like we mark off phases so we can describe the generality of what's going on during that time. But we're always progressing towards our goal. But we're never just like going on vacation. And that post show time is so relevant for how the rest of that off season is going to go. Not to say that you can't fix some mistakes here and there. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Uh, but you can definitely mess some things up going too far for too many weeks and not getting things under control. And you can make, like we've spoken about before, you can make some free meals and some eating work for you. There's a balance to it.
So here's the thing too, is like, is lowering systemic stress, right? Like if you're able to have a date with your wife or date with your significant other every week, but then maybe go a little lower in calories throughout the week so that way you're more insulin sensitive, but then taking that into account that this person likes to get like a meal off every single week, but make it like bodybuilding-esque, like have it be something
Uh,
that has a protein centric, maybe a dessert, maybe
I'm
like,
not worried about one meal a week
yeah,
post show.
exactly. And so like here's
I'm
the thing
worried about the
too.
30.
And here's the
That's
thing
good.
too, is that I fucked up my rebound this year, and I somehow, some way was able to pull it around and actually put on a lot of tissue this year. And what I did was, and this was the most fucked up thing I could have done, was after the show, I had to go to the ER after the show because I had the bright idea when we were carb loading, utilizing a super glycogen storage compound of utilizing diuretic, that inevitably I was low on potassium and magnesium and didn't
Do
make
you
it to
take
the
super draw and a diuretic? Was it super draw?
no, no,
Insulin?
yes.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. Sorry, I didn't
So
know if you were trying to keep that secret.
I pulled all the potassium and magnesium out of the blood, and then so I had to go to the ER in the night show. So what and then I did, ER, almost like close death experience, the whole thing. Couldn't eat after the show. Obviously, I was sick. And I was so depressed and so upset that a couple weeks later we went to Uruguay to like South America to visit my wife's family and all that other jazz. And inevitably, they fed me like a king. And like there was not a minute that they weren't trying to feed me. And I love the food. It was like the best beef you could ever have. Like South American beef is the best beef ever.
I would
You don't
assume though. Okay, so even I would say how bad post show periods can get, especially in America. You're probably eating like beef and healthy food, not like boxes of Pop
well, it
Tarts.
was good. It was healthy food. I stepped on stage 193. I came home 245. And I did blood work the day I got home because I was so sick. I was sick from the water because I was trying to drink water to not retain a lot
What
of
were your
fluid.
ankles like?
Dude, it was bad. It was the
Was
worst
the
it ever
flight
been.
dangerous?
It was bad. It was
Yeah, I
bad.
bet you were nervous on the flight. You should have had some
Dude,
salts.
my wife was making fun of me on the flight. Like straight up making fun of me. And I when I got home, I was sick and so sick
Yeah.
that I was pissing out of my ass and I had to wear a garbage bag. as my like underwear.
Do you think that you might have got Giardia while you were down there, or was
I
it
don't
all
know.
just
Whatever I got fucked me up for a
well?
week.
Because do you know what Giardia is?
No.
So and it's very common in South American countries. It's a water parasite, and
Oh.
so if we drink from their faucet, if we have ice, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I drank tons of faucet water.
Yeah, see,
Tons.
that is you and yeah, I would on a later day. If your gut's doing good, that's awesome. But sometimes it has really lasting effects on people's gut health. It can turn into
Yeah,
what's
no,
called
my
giardiosis.
stomach, it was fucked for about 8 months.
Yeah, yeah. Giardiosis can really change your
So my
microbiome.
my white blood cell count was like off the charts. Like they were like, what
Yeah.
the fuck?
See, you might
And
actually that would be a good candidate for oral BPC 157 and glutamine to rebuild that lining because giardiosis actually wears away at that lining. It eats away.
so it ended up working in my favor because I dropped 27 pounds worth of water being sick. So
Golly.
after I dropped the 27 pounds of water, I went to a maintenance diet of just 3,000 calories, and I got a super highly active job opening up this new restaurant called downtown Austin. So I was doing like 25 to 30,000 steps a day, eating maintenance calories, and then I was able to really build up my metabolism to where I was probably eating like 4,200 to 5,000 calories and like maintaining my weight at like 215, 216 for the majority of the year. And my training progressed and I wasn't pushing weight up because of the trip. And I was super like trying,
Yeah.
like, I was in this like, oh, I fucked up mentality. But then keeping everything in line the way I did and my diet having to be super, super clean because I was sick actually worked within my favor because I could only stick to easily digestible foods. And I was so active that my metabolism was cranking anyway. And the training efficacy stayed super, super high. So when I came off of that, I actually put on a lot of tissue to this most recent, like 3 weeks ago, I was posing with the same posing coach I always pose with. He's like, dude, you put on a lot of fucking size this year. What did you do? And I was like, I literally ate the same shit every fucking day. And I didn't deviate. I maybe had extra rice on the weekends or whatever, but I didn't want to eat outside of the diet because I knew it was going to fuck me up.
I mean, that's what it is, though. Like if we could, if somebody fucks up on the front end or fucks up on the back end, at some point, you're going to have to lock it in. And if you lock it in, great things can happen. And I think that that is like what I was getting at. Like, some people, those people that get off the rails, a lot of times that is so defeating to them that they can't
Yeah.
bring it back around. But if you're somebody, like I've noticed from several conversations with you, which you have a really good mindset on rolling with the punches. Like, the body wants to do certain things at certain times, and sometimes forcing, like you've brought up several examples of times where things off plan occurred and then you made it work for you.
Yeah.
There's been times where somebody really, they really want to grow, they really want to get lean, but their body's not in a place for that, but they're in a really good place to grow. And vice versa as well. So you have somebody coming off of a long content or a long off season. They've been pushing to grow, and the weight is slow. That might be a really easy person to get into shape.
Yeah,
You
you
know what I
just pull
mean?
back the food a little bit and increase the expenditure, and they just drop weight like crazy. But then that
Right.
also sets them up because then they're metabolically more efficient. Because then when you push food again, they'll go higher because their insulin sensitivity is that much better. And I think that's effectively what happened to me was like I got the leanest I ever got for this last show, and then on the highest amount of calories, I was dieting on like 4,200 calories for the show. I was just doing an inordinate amount of cardio because I like doing cardio.
Right.
But now it's funny, I did that whole off season where I was high activity, and then I went into this cut phase, but it's more like a maintenance phase where I was like, oh, we'll play around. I'm not going to do a show this year, but I'm kind of like playing with stuff. And I kept my calories around like 3,500 ish and kept activity super high. And I got a tip from a buddy of mine who was like, hey, why don't you pull back the activity? And I bet you get in better condition. The cortisol drops off, your fatigue drops off, and I bet you grow into whatever season you're trying to do. And I was like, sure. So I pulled the cardio back for the last 2 days and I dropped 4 pounds and I
Yeah.
look like like a different person. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, honest, it's kind of interesting what little things we can do to keep the ball rolling. You know
Well,
what I mean?
yeah, and especially, like, I came from restaurant industry where I was, like, always doing, like, 20,000 steps a day, and I would do cardio every day because I was like, "I'm a fat kid, I have to do cardio," to where I feel
Right.
like my metabolism is actually, like, way more like, way faster than it was prior, to where, like, I could probably get away with not doing cardio at this point, and I'm just doing steps right now because I'm OCD,
Right.
but it's funny you get those clients, like, you get a previous marathon runner and almost never do they have to do cardio because their metabolism is already so fast that you're just
Right.
trying to like slow it down. And even my previous coach was like, dude, you truck through calories so fucking fast that like I just have to slow you down, which is
Well, it
what.
can be a bit of a mind fuck. Like, when I got into bodybuilding, I kind of thought that it was like a suffering contest. I wanted to be like the most hardcore person, and I was with a coach who was just like light fuel on the fire. Like he will do 3 hours of cardio. I'd be shredded, peeled out of my mind 10 weeks out from the show, and food's still going low and cardio is still going up. There was no concept of bringing this back around. So now I work with an Olympian, and everything is a little bit more like less is more, being accurate, not just forcing your way to being peeled into the stage, but getting there tactfully. And it has been a challenge to trust that and allow, like, okay, adding these rest days, pulling these working sets back, or the number of sets, or pulling back on cardio, or adding in more high days and refeed days and stuff like that. And just for some athletes, there's everybody falls on tends to fall on one end of the spectrum. We're all trying to find balance, but there's a lot of athletes that they want the extra cheat meal and they're skipping cardio. That's we're not even going to talk about those athletes because who gives a fuck. But we'll talk about the athletes that are actually bodybuilding and actually care about their goals. A lot of times they often go a little bit overboard, which I'd rather have one of those athletes. But it can be a process getting them to trust that often less is more.
So that's exactly my struggle is the trust that, oh, I don't have to do more because I will kill myself. Like, I'll kill myself. That's fine.
Right.
And it's never been a question is whether or not I'll kill myself to get in shape. But now the game is like, hey, why don't we just pull the reins back a little bit so that you look sharper, so that you look harder, so that you're not
Well,
always flat all the fucking time.
the
And
whole just get peeled thing, that just get fat free, that works in the NPC. But when you go to the IFBB or even at the national level, you can't just crash yourself into striated glutes. You actually have to have shape. You have to have flow. You have to have fullness. And all of that happens 12 weeks back in prep when you weren't driving cortisol through the fucking roof and lowering estrogen way too early, or crashing estrogen way too early, or doing a lot of the silly stuff that we've all done in the past.
so I'm still an amateur. I'm like bottom of the barrel guy. I haven't won shit. And but I will tell you that with the mindset that I have now and like the knowledge that I have now, it's like I realized that I was just beating the shit out of my metabolism for like the past 5 years. And I'm at the point now where I had a long serious talk with a previous coach, and they were like, hey, like, you can just relax. You can
Yeah.
relax and, like, you're going to grow and look better. You will probably grow into a show, because I was the guy who would do 90 minutes on the bike and then another 20,000 steps a day and, hold down a job at a restaurant and, like, if the protocol said, like, 2,300 calories, I was like, "Well, how can I get it to 21?" And, you
Yeah.
know, driving myself into the ground until till I couldn't anymore. But now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, okay, I look at you and I look at a lot of the other competitors in House of Gains, and I'm like, these guys do it decisively. These guys are calculated with what they're doing, and they're not absolutely destroying themselves, and they're getting in absolute great shape. What if this thing that I'm trying to do is actually easier than what I'm making it? And I think a lot of things in life are like that.
Yeah, agreed. I do. Yeah, 100%. I think that there, not to say that there, I don't want to use the word rules, but we know that there are things that are necessary to get from point A to point B. and we do a lot of things that are not necessary that make things more difficult along the way in that process. And I think that the I don't want to speak in black and whites. There's times that you really got to crank the cardio. There's times that you got to push the diet. Um, but when you see a a coach with a body of work where everyone's traced out on food and cardio is always beyond 2 hours. A lot of times, what I feel about that is a lack of experience because they feel like everybody needs maybe what they need, or where somebody, they this misguided opinion of what's necessary to get into shape. And I think that when you have a coach, whoever was your previous coach, obviously had enough experience to say, hey, you got to learn to chill. And I think that if a coach hasn't worked with athletes at that level, that push, and it's like a coach that's never worked with somebody that's genetically blessed, and they think that everybody is going to need X amount of gear. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to tell you, Justin Bowflex is not going to need as much gear as probably me, and I have pretty good genetics. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so if he was to work with a coach who just cranked everybody, it would be unnecessary.
It would be side effect city.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a big thing too, is just the least effective dose, right? And just making things as efficiently as possible. I think the biggest game changer for me was listening to Chris Aceto and Stefan Kietzel and Skip Hill. They were all three of them agreed hands down cardio's overrated. And Chris Tuttle. They were all four of them said cardio's overrated. If your diet is in check, if you do your homework, then you shouldn't need anything else other than like maybe a little bit of clenbuterol to get in shape.
That's the truth, and I think that it's one of those things. So when a bodybuilding prep is going in the right direction, everything is moving in the right direction. Stress is in a good place. Sleep is in a good place. So that means hunger hormones in a good place. Hopefully, you're in a good starting place with food. So everything starts to perpetuate upon itself, and it makes for an easier prep where you throw in a little bit of cardio, you get a result from it. You reduce some food, you get a result from it. But when people get behind, they don't have a good starting point. They get behind on their hunger hormones, their training starts to suffer, their sleep is suffering, so then their hunger hormones are getting even worse, and their stress is getting up, and their glucagon is becoming a factor, cortisol is becoming a factor, and then everything is working against the body, and it's this perpetuating cycle, and it can go one way or the other. And I think that a lot of times people think that we're going to fix things by cranking up the cardio, but often it pushes it further down that direction of turning into a clusterfuck. And in every prep, what we're trying to do is prevent a clusterfuck.
So essentially, like you just named, so that's how I discovered dietary fats in the diet was they moderate and help the mitigation of cortisol. They help with cortisol mitigation. And I would do the lowest fat diet you'd ever heard of. And I remember not sleeping days and days and days and days. And then being like, what the fuck? And then I hired a really good coach and they had me doing added fats to the diet. And I remember being like, I can sleep. This is
Oh, dude,
amazing.
I'll tell you. So sometimes as early coaches, we do things that are correct on accident. So my earlier dietary teachings came from school, not from like the bodybuilding world. So there was rules, and the idea of going below certain amounts of healthy fat seemed crazy to me. So in contest preps, when I was young, 20, 21, prepping my friends, there was a certain level of healthy fats that I didn't pull out when I was pulling, even if that meant that we had some zero carb days or something like that. As I started getting fancier with things and I started keeping more carbs in or maybe lowering protein and pulling out all fats, what I noticed was more erratic behavior from athletes, more stress. The prep would go in a negative direction, and the mental health always seemed to struggle more so, significantly more. And we're not talking big adjustments, we're talking leaving two 15-gram servings of almond butter in. You know what I mean? Or 15 grams of walnuts in one and 50 grams of avocado in another. It doesn't take much, but when those last bits of added fats are gone, especially when there's not very many carbs. I've just noticed that the mind tends to struggle so much.
So here's the biggest thing that I realized was like the added fats, and like you said, with the cortisol, with the high cardio and the high training volume. My wife knows me so well now that if I pull fats, and let's say I didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days, she'll know. She'll be like, "Oh, you're overdoing it." And
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, "Yeah." And so she's like, she'll call me out on my shit where I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really pushing and my weight's not dropping." And she's like, "Yeah, because you're just pushing too fucking hard." And
Well,
then I'll
that's
pull back on the training and the cardio and I'll add in a little extra fats, or I'll have a high day. And my high days are usually a combination of fats and carbs. And then I'm like sleeping like a baby, and then everything drops off and I look drier. My weight doesn't necessarily change until 2 or 3 days after, but the result is so much better.
right. I think people, especially the more muscle mass that you have, I think people underestimate the crazy response that occur from eating carbohydrates without the presence of fat. It can because you can be eating in a surplus and you pull your fats down and you're going, and all of a sudden it hits you fast. And I think it's because you're moving in two different directions. The carbs are speeding things up, and you don't have the fats to slow things down. So all of a sudden, when you remove those, you're coming from an off season to where your metabolism is hopefully cranking through the roof, and then
Yeah.
you don't have those fats. Even with 300, 400 grams of carbohydrates, if you have a decent bit of muscle, you're going to rip through those carbs.
And
Like
you,
it's like somebody's going hypo at the gym, right? And then
that's me.
somebody's like, yeah, so give him a Gatorade, give him a Gatorade. And my thought process behind that is, you're going to help me feel better for about 10 minutes. And then I'm going
Hmm.
to feel worse because I'm going to go up higher and crash even lower. I need, like, I did one set the other day, not taking insulin or anything. It just happens with some people. I did one set on my chest day the other day, and I got up and I started getting dizzy and I had this weird cold sweats and I just started
Oh
feeling
fuck!
weird, and I was like, what the fuck, man? Obviously this isn't
I
like
can
a
feel it. You
dangerous
just
thing.
saying it. I'm like, oh shit.
But I walk over to the counter and I was like, look behind it, like what food that they have that has fats. And I was like, oh, I was like, give me one of those legacy barbell bars, you know what I mean? And I knew that it would take longer to kind of stabilize me, but once I was stabilized, I'd be good. So it's like I had an athlete like go hypo, bikini athlete,
Oh,
go
that's super
obviously not
common.
using do what?
Super common.
And she was a pro, and we were at Hawaii, and her fats were pretty low, but not that low. And once she drank some water and had that adrenaline dump on stage, it's like her body ripped through all of that glucose, and her teeth are chattering and stuff like that. And she's her boyfriend's yelling, everybody's stressed, And I gave her I love her boyfriend to death. We got into it. We start screaming at each other, and then 2 seconds later, he's like, "Hey, love you, bro." We give each other a hug, and it's like not too many men are like that these days. Everybody want to be salty
Oh,
puppy
everybody's
dicks
so
about
fucking sensitive,
it. So
especially people in Texas. It's like outrageous.
Chase owns CFA, the coaching company. So like me and him can get into it, and then it's like we never even did. It makes me feel like it's one of my friends from back 15 years ago. You know
Oh,
what I
that's
mean?
fucking
It's just like,
awesome.
yeah, it's great. It's actually refreshing. I remember telling him, I'm glad we got in that fight because now I know you're a good homie. But we gave her the carbs, we gave her some honey, we gave her some whatever we had, I don't remember, and then we gave her plenty of almond butter. And although the almond butter did slow down the carbohydrates a bit, we got everything to a stable position. But once again, no insulin being used. I'll tell you another person who goes hypo without using any insulin is Ross Flanagan.
Really? You do,
Yeah.
dude, he's been mentioned so many times. I've got a client of mine who used to work with Ross, and he keeps saying, he's like, dude, you remind me so much of fucking Ross. You talk just like Ross. And I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, I always consider him like way too cool for me. I've seen him around and he's like fucking massive. And I'm like, dude, I'm nobody. I'm a small fry. Like, who the fuck
He's
am
a
I?
big guy.
And but he's fucking awesome. I just tried his bowl games the other day, and it was like off the chain. My client gave me some, and I was like, dude, I'm buying all the brownie batter.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
anytime people come with me some bullshit other brand and they're like, bro, dude, this is the shit. I'm like, fuck you.
No, get
Like,
the fuck out of here.
yeah,
Like, see, I'll either make
it's
my own rice flour if I'm trying to save money, or I'll buy a bowl of Gates. 100%.
I'll tell you, if you actually make it the way that he suggests on the back of the bag,
Yes.
for some reason it says three
Dude,
to 4 grams, but then on his videos he'll say 5 to 6 grams, and I guarantee you, if you ask him about it, he'll give you some shithead answer. I hope
Dude,
he's
I'm
listening.
so OCD. I have to do everything by the fucking book. Everything.
Yeah, he needs to
Everything.
change it to 5 or 6 grams because um, it's a little bit more velvety. I like it at like 4 grams because I just want to just put it down. You know what I mean? But in contest prep, like 5 to 6 grams.
I love
It's a
it
very nice
with
texture.
fucking raspberries.
Ooh.
Raspberries in the brownie batter is like my fucking shit. I get a bunch of frozen raspberries, and it's like my post workout go to. My latest post workout has been chicken, dates. I season my rice with cinnamon.
Okay.
With cinnamon, and then I have added fats in my pre and post workout because that same reason is that I go fucking hypo all the time. And backstage, actually, for me, it's egg McMuffin prior to prejudging,
Love
and
it.
then after prejudging, it's Uncrustables every 2 hours.
Bro, I fucked up a whole rebound from Uncrustables alone one year. I'm not fucking with you.
No,
Dude, so I won an overall. I didn't have a coach for
that's
like my
fucking gnarly. Like, dude, I haven't won shit, and the idea of winning an overall without a fucking coach is like beyond me.
every show is a little different. You know, I'm not gonna say it was an easy
Can I
show,
can
but
I pause you for 30 seconds while I use the lavatory real quick?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Thanks, bro. Sorry,
You're good.
I was dying.
So nice and hydrated. I've been small, you know, like gaining weight was difficult for me. You know, I was still natural until I prepped for that show, um, and then so I to make weight for classic, I had to go like sit in a sauna and pull my weight down. So the weight is a little inaccurate. Like I didn't actually weigh 169 pounds, but that's what I had to pull down to make weight. Um, but 2 weeks later, I was like 211 pounds, and I thought it was awesome, dude. Like I thought it was so sick. I was like, dude, I'm up 40 pounds, dude. I'm like gonna be in the 212 now. No, dude. I have a picture of me like 7 days. I have to find it like 7 days after the show, and I'm standing by the river with a box of Uncrustables. And like my friends came to the river with a case of beer. I came with a case of Uncrustables, finished them all. And
We've
dude,
all had a rebound like this. We've all done this.
I trashed my physique. Like I had a fucking gut, and that gut was filled with Uncrustables. I'm telling you. So
Dude,
yeah, you brought
so
up the Uncrustables.
I did a show in 2013, and I remember it was a fuck you show, and I actually had the good graces of my posing and my diet coach being this Gabriella, and Gabriella was Iris Kyle's training partner
Okay.
back in the day. So she
Hell
gave
yeah.
me a fucking bare bones basic diet. Now I will recite it as is. It was egg whites, cream of rice with coconut oil, uh 8-ounce chicken breast, 8-ounce potato, 8-ounce chicken breast, 8-ounce potato, both of those with a tablespoon of coconut oil, 7 ounces of I round with vegetables post workout, no post workout carbs. And then before bed was 12 to 15 egg whites with 10 almonds.
Hell
And
yeah.
I fucking lived on that diet. I didn't change shit. There wasn't an adjustment, and 45 minutes of fucking Stairmaster every day until the show. And the training was 4 days on. No, yeah, 4 days on, 2 days off, 4 days on, 4 days off. And I got peeled out of my fucking
Oh, I
mind.
fucking believe it.
And I remember it was a New York show, and I saw Ben White. And I remember Ben White, I hired him to train me one time, and he fell asleep on the leg press because he was dieting for a show doing the keto diet. So when I hired him for the hour, he fell asleep on the leg press, like while I was doing leg extensions. I remember being like, what the fuck? And I was pissed.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like a young kid. I was like 16, 17. I remember being like, I drove an hour to Albany for this guy to fall
Yeah,
asleep on
what
me?
the fuck? See, that, bro, okay. So, one thing about the older generation, I love them to death. There's so many that have, helped me achieve everything that I've achieved. But we have a lot of shit talk about the younger, newer coaches coming in. But there was shit going on in the industry for a
Dude,
long
they did
time,
so much stupid shit.
and they
And
were just
so,
running wild, bro. Like we got a coach up here. I'm not gonna use his name, but
oh,
so I've seen a ton of his diets. And it's like 6 ounce white fit. It's so they you start traced out for the most part. So like he started several people on with no carbohydrates. Like they did this for 20 weeks. It was like egg whites or fish. That's it. That's fucking it. And the last meal was egg whites with some nuts. And he's like, with not a specific kind of nut, not how many, some nuts. And like he's prepped a ton of people around here. He's been prepping for a long time. He's been on podcasts and stuff, and he has a lot to say about like younger, newer coaches and stuff. And I was like, that's the one thing that people just aren't fucking getting away with anymore. Giving people plans for 20 fucking weeks that are just hell, and not sustainable at
I'll tell you
all.
what though, I was the most peeled guy on fucking stage. And I remember her being mad. She would be like, listen, I want you to have like chicken parm without the pasta. I want you to go have a burger. And I'd be like, nope. And I would skip it. I would skip it. And then like peak weeks, she'd be like, I want you to eat more food. And I'd be like, nope. And and
Oh,
like
okay, okay.
I even like the steak, she tried to increase the steak and I swapped it for white fish. Or like
Oh,
I'd pull the
okay.
coconut oil out of meals and like I remember I was like 193 and I looked perfect. And she's like, don't change shit. And then all of a sudden, like towards the end of prep, you can lose a lot of muscle. I went to like 175. And she's like, what did you do?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I went on stage that year and everyone there was like, what happened? Like you had size. Like what the fuck happened to you?
yeah.
And I remember
What'd you
Ben White
do?
coming up to me being like, how, because he was having trouble getting in condition that year. And he was like, how did you get that ripped? And I remember looking at him like almost like kind of spiteful, being like, I just worked fucking harder.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everybody told me after that show, the judges and everybody, they're like, he needs more size. He needs more size. So then I went full bore and I ate as much of everything as I could. And I made what I called these fat kid sandwiches. And it were white bread with fluffernutter, Nutella, and the shitty Skippy peanut butter. And I
Hell
used
yeah.
to eat 3 or 4 of those in between classes. So I got elected as the treasurer for my student government during college. I remember they called me the amazing growing man. And I was like, yeah, like because I'm getting more muscular, because I'm growing. They're like, yeah, every time we see you, you're a little bit bigger. Every time we see you. Little did I know I was
Blown
just
up
getting
like the
obese.
Michelin Man. Yeah.
So I went to the show 175, and I remember the show was October 13th, and I weighed myself. I was just eating and eating and eating and eating. And then I weighed myself the day after Christmas and I felt miserable because I ate a whole strawberry shortcake. Like the entire thing. Like my family, like they got into some dysfunctional bullshit. Nobody ate dessert because they all felt fat. And I was like, I'm already fat. I'm gonna eat it. So
Yeah.
I ate a whole strawberry shortcake, and when I ate the whole strawberry shortcake, I remember feeling like just like dog shit.
Yeah.
So I weighed myself the next morning and I was 226. And it was like not a good 226, like a Michelin man, like super inflamed
Yeah. Yeah.
226. And it was like, oh shit.
I mean, I have fucked up some shows, some post show reverses for sure. I've definitely done it the wrong way, and I've done it the right way. I have been put in a very bad way. Doing some uncomfortable. I remember after I won the San Antonio, I was at my house and I went into my freezer to grab a thing of ice cream, like a pint of ice cream, and I was eating it for a little while, and I got so full. Like when I mean so full, I could push on my stomach and I could make ice cream come up. Like I was
Oh
full. I
no.
was physically full, like literally full of ice cream. There was no more space. So I went and I put the ice cream back in the freezer, and I waited like 30 seconds before I picked it up again and started eating that shit
Oh,
again. I'm
dude,
like,
we've
nope,
all done that.
still
We've all
full.
done that. We've all done that shit. Dude,
So
you just reminded me, I didn't figure out that I had a ridiculous metabolism and I say that because other people have told me, not saying that tout my own horn.
right.
I was working with Skip Hill and we were doing traditional skip loading. And to the point that he's like, I need you to go moderate fat, moderate carb. So it was basically like I would go low calorie for 6 days a week and I would do as much cardio as I could fucking handle.
Right.
And Sunday came around and I would make a full spread brunch, like a box of pancake mix, jars of jam, jugs of juice, 3 or 4 containers of ciabatta bread from Trader Joe's. Then my wife would make gnocchis. I would do a package of hash browns with ketchup, all with protein, with like turkey or egg whites or turkey bacon or what have you. Then later in the day, we would get dinner at some restaurant, like maybe like burgers or whatever, or go somewhere nice,
Yeah.
or like a fat-free pizza. We get a pizza with no cheese because my wife is vegan. And then for dessert, I would go and get sorbet or cookies or what have you. And I remember getting shredded like that, getting peeled. And Skip calling me 3 weeks out before the show and being like, I've worked with people for 30 fucking years. And not only can very few people eat the way you can eat, but not like very few people can fucking get away with it.
Do you feel like you could take some of those calories, distribute them throughout the week,
That's
do a
what we do
little less
now. That's what
cardio?
we do now.
Okay, all right,
That's
and
like
get a
when I
better
post my
result.
macros, people are like, what the fuck? Because I diet on 500 grams of carbs a day and 50
Yeah,
grams of added fat and over 300 grams of protein. And people are like, what? There's no way that's real. And I
yeah.
go, yeah, like that's the
Do
real
you,
fucking deal, guys.
do you know Cody Hornsby?
No.
He's a really fucking good posing coach. He's a classic pro out of Muscle Factory down in like New Braunfels, San Antonio area.
Yeah.
And dude, he's another metabolic freak. He diets on that amount of food. And
My
I'll
buddy
say
Brian
that,
owns that gym. I'm good friend. We go way
yeah,
back.
he's at Muscle Factory, but he used to train at Factory too.
Oh,
I
San
love Brian.
Antonio. San Antonio.
Yeah. I absolutely love Brian. Brian is awesome. But I got another guy. If you look on my Instagram right now, he's posted pretty recently. He turned pro in bodybuilding and classic. I was coach. When did we do that? That was 2024. Yeah, that was 2024. That was nationals in 2024. He turned pro in classic and bodybuilding at Dallas Nationals. That was fucking dope. But he's peeled out of his mind. And he has that kind of that metabolism, like to where to get shredded, we'd have never had to bring him below 300 grams of carbs.
Dude,
But the weight, but
my high days are 1,000 grams of carbs, 75 grams of fat, and 350 grams of protein. And I did that every 5 days my last contest prep.
well, so that's a lot of food. But what I'm getting at is there may be a day, and when you put on that muscle, where you have the ability to eat that much food and get peeled, but then you have a weight cap to deal with. So it's like
Fuck that.
Josh,
I'll just go open. I'll just pull a nurse.
yeah. We had him shredded eating a reasonable amount of food, but we had to get him under 165 for welterweights. So we didn't want to trash the look though, because I still wanted him to be able to turn pro in classic.
Yeah.
So we had to take his classic cutoff was like 174. So that's an extra 9 pounds. So we have to decide: are we going to suffer? Is the look going to suffer? He ended up winning welterweights. He won classic A, 2 pro cards.
Fuck
Good to
yeah.
go. But and a lot of times when it comes to getting your body down in classic physique, instead of thinking about like starving the body more and like trying to get more fat off when they're already peeled, a lot of times it's bringing PEDs down, bringing or not bringing the
Lowering
PEDs in the
cortisol,
first
making sure
place.
the body's functioning as effectively as
Pooping.
possible.
You know what I mean? Like honestly, like if a colonic didn't completely wipe your microbiome, then I would do that before a show.
What if you did oh my
enema?
god. What's the one that Justin Harris likes?
Is
Fuck.
it an enema?
No, it's oh my god. It starts with an M. It's a laxative.
Oh, Miralax?
Yes.
I didn't know that Justin Harris likes
So
Miralax.
Justin Harris likes to use it for distension prior to stage.
Oh. See, I have experience using, and with success as well, using a gentle laxative.
Yeah, because it's a
stimulant.
gentle laxative and it doesn't wipe out your electrolytes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, is the
listen,
Miralax
man.
gentle as well?
Yeah, we gotta wrap this up. I
Yep.
so fucking appreciate you spending
Absolutely,
the
bud.
hour with
Absolutely.
me. This was a lot of fun. We got to do it again. Why don't you plug in all the ways people can find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, so the main thing is Coach Hunter Lee on Instagram. My email is leehunter23@gmail.com, but probably the easiest way is just reach out to me, Coach Hunter Lee on Instagram. If you send me a DM, I'll get back to you.
And then I'll add all your information into the description and all that other jazz. But if you guys are looking for coaching with myself, I'm vincemayor@gmail.com. I run Vicious Fitness and I help people get in the best shape of their lives since 2011. All right. Thank you again, Hunter. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, Belly. Take it easy.
All right. Good night.